Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. This is Jillian from Maxine Makes Magic, and today for my Disney food park series, we're gonna head over to Disney's Hollywood Studios to Woody's Lunchbox to make the famous Lunchbox Tarts. These treats are very similar to your typical store-bought Pop Tart, but even better because they have just that little touch of Disney magic. To make our Lunchbox Tarts, we're gonna start by making our own strawberry jam. It is strawberry season here in the Midwest, so I did go ahead and pick some fresh strawberries for this recipe. As always, the recipe will be included in the description below. I just want to call out that I did quadruple this recipe. I was making some jam for family and friends because we picked far too many strawberries. To make the jam, you're going to want to take your sugar, lemon juice, and your strawberries and put them into a large stock pot, cooking them to 220 degrees. If you're looking to achieve a nice smooth jam, you are going to want to either use a potato masher or an immersion blender to really just break up those really large chunks of strawberries. They will soften as you cook them down. We just want to make sure we're getting that really nice, final, smooth jam texture. The mixture is going to cook down into this beautiful reddish pink color. You are going to want to make sure that you're extremely careful when you transfer it to jars. It is going to be screaming hot, so give the mixture a little bit of time to cool down before you go ahead and make that transfer. To store the jam, I found these really cute ball mason jars on Amazon that I'll add into the description below. Once you've jarred all of your jam, you're going to go ahead and pop your jars into the fridge to chill overnight, and we'll go ahead and start making our pie dough. We're going to go ahead and make our lunchbox tart dough, starting with 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, a cup of cold salted butter cut into cubes, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar, and a half cup of cold water. In a large mixing bowl, we're going to go ahead and combine our all-purpose flour, our granulated sugar, and whisk those two ingredients together. Moving over to my hand mixer fit with a kneading attachment, I'm going to add a little bit of butter at a time to my flour mixture to combine. You can also use a Vitamix or a food processor to combine these ingredients, or what I ended up finding to be the easiest was the old-fashioned way, just using my hands to massage that butter and that flour mixture together. Once the dough started to come together just a little bit more, I went back in with my hand mixer to break up any of the large chunks of butter and flour because we really want them to be nice small granules. I went ahead here and started by adding in my vanilla extract as well. I wanted to make sure I used all the vanilla extract in my container, so I just went ahead and used a little bit of the water we're going to need later, poured that into my cup, and squeezed out all of that amazing smelling vanilla extract. Now that we have our vanilla mixed in, we're going to go ahead and start adding a little bit of cold water at a time to really bring that final dough together. If you're like me and you were having a bit of a rough day with your hand mixer, you can go ahead and again use your trusty hands to bring all of the ingredients together into a nice ball. And just for a little bit of overkill to make sure that everything was combined nicely, I went ahead and used my kneading attachment on my hand mixer just to give it one final mix before forming it into a ball. Now that we have our dough done, we're going to go ahead and put that into a bowl, cover it with some Glad press and seal, and pop that into the fridge for 20 to 30 minutes to chill. Alright guys, now that our dough has had some time to chill, we're going to go ahead and put some flour down onto our countertop and use that as well as our rolling pin to just go ahead and roll out our dough to about 1/4 inch thick. I will say I did go ahead and make my lunchbox tarts more in line with the shape of a traditional Pop Tart as opposed to what you'll see in the parks. But I was able to squeeze out one that you'll see later on that is in the traditional shape you're gonna get when you go to Woody's Lunchbox. Now, I don't have a rectangular cookie cutter, and you definitely don't need one for this recipe. If you have some parchment paper, you can go ahead and cut that into the shape of a rectangle and use that and your knife as a guide to get the rectangular shape you need for these lunchbox tarts. I also wouldn't get too caught up on these being the absolute perfect shape. They are homemade with a lot of love, and having them look a little bit rustic is absolutely fine. At this point, you're going to keep using your guide and go around your dough, cutting out as many pie doughs as you can, keeping in mind that you're going to need a top crust and a bottom crust for your Pop Tart, so you want to make sure you have an even amount. Here's where things get fun. I had a little bit of extra dough to use and I wanted to make the lunchbox tarts in their traditional shape, so I went ahead and cut one of my rectangles in half and used that as my new guide to get one last lunchbox tart out of my dough. I am just cracking myself up watching this back because it is such a wonky shape in retrospect, but honestly, again, these being rustic and homemade just makes them all the more fun. Once we've cut up all of our pie doughs, we can go ahead and start filling them with our jam. You can see it is set up really nicely now that it sat in the fridge overnight. Now, I have to be honest with you all, 2 tablespoons is way too much filling for each individual pie crust, so I would recommend sticking to about a tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half because you don't want to be like me and have jam oozing out the sides of your dough when you're trying to seal the top and the bottom crust together. I was in far too deep at this point, so I went ahead and rolled with it. Even with my little pie crust, I already knew this was gonna be way too much jam, but you know what? We're just gonna go for it. Once you have all of your jam down, you're gonna go ahead and use the back of a spoon to spread out your jam, making sure not to go all the way to the edge of your pie dough. This part too is completely customizable. You can use whatever flavor, jam, or filling you'd like. Really, I think the possibilities are endless. Like I said earlier on in the video, it is strawberry season where I'm at, and I was really excited to make some homemade strawberry jam to fill these lunchbox tarts with. Once we've spread out all of our jam, we need to match up our pie crust bottom and our pie crust top together in order to make our lunchbox tart shape, because we are going to go ahead and seal these together. The sealing process is a little bit of trial and error. You can see with the first lunchbox tart that I make that there is some jam that oozes out the sides as I start to seal this with the back of a fork. You might also have to go in a couple times to get that really nice seal, which is really the most important part of the recipe, because when you pop these in the oven, you want to make sure that none of that jam oozes out through the seams that you combined with your fork. Once I got to the final edge to seal, that's when I knew I overfilled these guys. The jam started oozing out that one side, so I did have to take the back of a spoon and just push the jam back towards the sealed side as best as I could, knowing that this might not be the prettiest one of the bunch, but that it will absolutely taste delicious. When I got to my final lunchbox tart, I was starting to get into a groove, and I figured out if you take the top piece of the pie crust and spread it out a little bit before sealing, it does help seal the overall dough together just a little bit better than the old traditional way. This method really helped make sure that the jam didn't ooze out the sides of my pie crust and came out with the best shape of the day. To get the ideal shape, I did go ahead and use my hands just to encourage the dough back together in the shape I wanted after sealing. At this point, you can go ahead and step away to set your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. You're gonna wanna put your lunchbox tarts onto a baking sheet lined with some parchment paper before popping them into the oven. In order to make sure the crust doesn't puff up too much in the oven, you're gonna wanna add some ventilation into the top of each lunchbox tart by taking the bottom of a fork and poking holes into the top of each tart. Your lunchbox tarts are ready to go in the oven from anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. It's really dependent on your oven. I put mine on the middle rack and they did take a total of 30 minutes to get to that nice light golden brown color. Once your lunchbox tarts are done baking, you're going to want to put them on a cooling rack so they can cool completely. We don't want to ice these when they're too hot. Now is for the fun part. We get to go ahead and decorate our lunchbox tarts. I went ahead and made some pink icing using a cup of powdered sugar and 2 tablespoons of milk, as well as some pink food dye and strawberry extract. I just added about a teaspoon into the icing. I also found some really fun sprinkles and used my mortar and pestle to crush up some freeze-dried strawberries to just add another punch of strawberry flavor onto the top of each lunchbox tart. This is where you can get as creative as you want. You can really do any icing flavor or color that you want or toppings. I think this would be so fun if you were to make these lunchbox tarts and then save the decorating part to do with your friends, your family, or with your kids. You can go ahead and have a Toy Story movie night or a movie marathon night. I just think it would be such a fun way to enjoy the movie and eat these lunchbox tarts with your favorite people. Speaking of our favorite people or favorite toys, go ahead and sound off in the comment section. I want to know who your guys' favorite Toy Story character is. My personal favorite character is Slinky or Slinky Dog. He is just so fun and so cute, and I love his personality. He is Woody's sidekick, and he will go to just about any length to help his friends. So he personally is my favorite character out of all the Toy Story movies. This was the lunchbox tart that I was referencing earlier. This really is in the traditional shape of what you would see in the parks and what you'd be on the lookout for if you wanted to try one at Woody's Lunchbox for yourself. A little tip too when you're spreading the icing is to add a little bit at a time. It will eventually harden up like a traditional Pop Tart. It just takes some time to get there and it will ooze off the sides if you add too much. But honestly, who doesn't love extra icing? Make these as fun as you'd like. All right, guys, we have our final lunchbox tarts inspired by Woody's Lunchbox and Disney's Hollywood Studios. I'm really happy with how these turned out. I've never had them in the parks before. I've seen them everywhere online in a couple different flavors, but I've really wanted to try to make them myself. I'm actually going to the parks in less than a week. So I'm hoping while I'm there, I get to pop over to Toy Story Land and give one of these guys a try. I know there's a raspberry flavor and a chocolate hazelnut that are always in the menu, and I really want to try that raspberry one. But since it's strawberry season, where I'm from in the Midwest, I had to make a strawberry flavored one. We picked fresh strawberries, we made our own homemade dough, and I'm really excited with how they turned out. Majority of them are in your traditional Pop Tart shape, like the ones you get at the grocery store, but I was able to squeeze one out that looks just like the ones you get in the parks, except for maybe a little bit of the jam oozing out, but that just means they're filled with extra jam and a lot of love. All right, guys, I took a bite of one of the larger ones. Look at the filling. Look at the filling. Oh my God. These are so much better than store-bought Pop Tarts. Like 1,000 times better, which they should be. They're Disney, I get it. But like, look at that. And like the crust is so flaky and buttery, and the icing on top just brings the strawberry flavor all together. I did add some strawberry extract into the filling itself, and I think those strawberry, crushed up dried strawberries in the top really just bring the flavor full circle. Wow. I want to hear how these turn out for you, or maybe what flavor combinations you'd like to see in the future. Maybe we give the chocolate hazelnut or the raspberry one a try. I don't know. That's up to you. So make sure you comment down in the comment section what flavor you would like to see. And as always, if you want to support my channel, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow along for more Disney Parks videos just like this one. Bye, guys. As always, this is Jillian from Maxine Makes Magic, and I hope you have a magical day.